Before we start this story that might completely change the way you see global geopolitics, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications because here you will understand complex international topics in a simple and clear way. Now, think about this question that almost nobody asks. What happens when three global giants decide to play on the same team? Three countries, three flags, one plan. Russia has gas, Iran has oil, and China has the money. And when these three countries decide to work together, the global geopolitical chessboard begins to change dramatically. We're talking about a strategic alignment that many analysts consider one of the most powerful partnerships of the century, an alliance that influences energy routes, affects fertilizer production that feeds the planet, and invests heavily in technologies that may define the future. And what makes it even more interesting is that the United States faces serious challenges when trying to counterbalance this movement. In this video, I will explain everything in a way that anyone can understand, even if you have never studied geopolitics before. By the end, you'll realize that the world today no longer operates in the same way it did during the Cold War or during the period when a single global power dominated the international system. The world is changing quickly. Let us begin with a simple question. Why have Russia, China, and Iran moved closer to each other in recent years? The answer is surprisingly direct, because they face similar forms of external pressure. The United States imposes heavy sanctions on Russia and Iran while maintaining an intense economic and technological rivalry with China. In response, these three countries started to recognize something important. Individually, they would face much greater limitations. Together, they could create a structure capable of resisting those pressures. When you observe the logic of this cooperation, something remarkable appears. China has the largest industrial base on the planet and a massive consumer market. However, there is a fundamental issue. China requires enormous amounts of energy to sustain its industries. It needs oil and natural gas. This is where Russia and Iran come into the picture. Russia is a major energy power and one of the largest exporters of oil and natural gas in the world. It also controls large reserves of fertilizers essential for global agriculture. Iran also possesses enormous oil and gas reserves and occupies a highly strategic geographic position connecting important global trade routes. When you connect these elements, a powerful mechanism appears. China has capital, industrial capacity, and demand for energy, while Russia and Iran possess energy resources and seek investment and stable markets. When those interests meet, a strong partnership emerges. But energy is only the first layer of the story. There is something deeper happening as well. If you're enjoying this explanation, subscribe to the channel because that helps this kind of content reach more people. Now let us move forward because the next part of the story involves geography and global strategy. Iran occupies a position that very few countries possess. It sits between the Persian Gulf and the Caspian Sea and controls access to one of the most important maritime corridors on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz. Around 20% of the oil traded globally passes through this narrow passage. That means any instability in the region can immediately influence global energy prices. Iran also connects important land routes linking Asia to the Mediterranean. Because of this, China sees Iran as a key component in large infrastructure initiatives designed to connect continents through new trade corridors. At the economic core of this alliance, there are large state energy companies working in coordination. Chinese corporations finance infrastructure and energy development projects, while Russian companies export oil, gas, and extraction technology. Iranian institutions control major reserves and key transport routes. These companies do not simply trade energy, they invest in each other, creating a network of economic interdependence that strengthens the entire partnership. Another crucial element involves the international financial system. For decades, global trade has been heavily dominated by the US dollar. Many international transactions depend on financial networks connected to the United States. When a country faces sanctions, it can lose access to these systems. Russia, China, and Iran have been experimenting with alternative arrangements. In some cases, China finances infrastructure projects and receives long-term energy deliveries instead of traditional monetary repayment. This gradually reduces reliance on the dollar in certain transactions. Over time, a parallel economic ecosystem may emerge, operating partially outside traditional Western financial structures. This does not mean the dollar will disappear quickly, but it shows how new mechanisms are being developed. There is also another surprising aspect that many people do not immediately associate with geopolitics: food production. Large-scale agriculture depends heavily on fertilizers, and fertilizers depend on chemical processes linked to natural gas. Russia and Iran possess large gas reserves that can support fertilizer production, while China has enormous agricultural demand and industrial capacity. In this way, energy, chemistry, and food production become interconnected within a strategic chain. This illustrates how modern geopolitics involves science, logistics, and industrial capacity as much as traditional politics. These countries are also investing in emerging technologies, including hydrogen energy and advanced industrial research. China leads in many scientific fields, while Russia and Iran possess key natural resources needed for future energy systems. Together, they may accelerate the creation of new technological ecosystems. At the same time, the world is experiencing a broader transformation as new international institutions and economic blocs gain influence. Cooperation between emerging economies is gradually reshaping global economic governance and contributing to a more multipolar international order where several powers hold influence simultaneously. Of course, this alliance also faces internal challenges, including political differences, historical tensions, and economic imbalances. Yet external pressure often encourages deeper cooperation between them. When we look at the global landscape, we see a period of transition where new transportation corridors, trade networks, and technologies are reshaping international relations. Understanding these changes helps explain how the future global economy might evolve. Now, I want to hear your opinion. Do you believe this alliance can truly reshape the global balance of power? Leave your comment below and share your perspective, because your voice is part of this discussion. And if you enjoy learning about the hidden forces shaping world geopolitics, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, because many more analyses about global events are coming.